Doug Roland wrote, directed, and produced Feeling Through. I'm Riley Chow of Gold Derby, and your film is actually, I believe, the only one shortlisted for Best Live Action Short that is available free right now on YouTube. So why have you made it so accessible?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the from the start of making this film, going back to 3 years ago when I really made the decision, like it's time to make this. I knew I wanted to have it be something that served the community that was at the heart of it, the deafblind community, and I partnered with Helen Keller Services to cast the deafblind actor in it, but to also make sure that it was the most authentic film it could be, and also work with them later on to create fully accessible screening events to make sure that the community that's at the heart of it could also experience it. So we've wanted to, and certainly for a short duration, and we're going to take it down soon, but we wanted to make it widely available for a brief amount of time so that people, the most people could possible could see it, because we know that as much as we've heard back from so many people that it's a very moving film for them and something that really resonates with them. There's also this other component to it, which is, Robert Tarango, who's our actor who's deafblind in the film. He's the first deafblind actor to star in a film. And that's a reflection of the fact that the deafblind community is one in which there's virtually zero representation in any media of the community. So there's this kind of like highest level of this where we also want it to be an opportunity to share this community with people who maybe have never had an opportunity to meet anyone who's deafblind or even really think about the community. And it's been an amazing opportunity to do that and to have so many people experience it who are perhaps really getting curious about and learning about the community for the first time, who have been so thankful, not just for the story, but for that component to learn about something new and be compelled to learn more about it moving forward.
Yeah, you mentioned the accessible screenings. Can you go into that? Because what you're doing is actually quite unique.
Yeah, so we very fortunately we got a chance to start exhibiting this film a little bit before the pandemic. So we got to do in-person screenings. And we would actually show it as something called the Feeling Through experience. The film is called Feeling Through, but the reason we called it the Feeling Through experience is because we'd show it as this 3-part event where we would show Feeling Through, followed by a supporting documentary called Connecting the Dots, which we shot all throughout pre-production through production, which follows not only the process of casting and working with Robert, our deafblind actor, but also the journey of aligning with Helen Keller Services and the Helen Keller National Center, and also our year-long search for the man who inspired all this many years prior, this man named Artemio, who I had a real life encounter with now 10 years ago, which inspired this whole story. So it tracks all of that. And then the third part of these screening events would be a panel discussion and Q&A, where we would talk with local people from the deafblind community of whatever community we were in. And we knew we needed to make, before we played in film festivals, before we shared it anywhere else, we wanted to make sure that, again, the community that's at the heart of this had an opportunity to experience it alongside other people. So these accessible events would include as many as 50 interpreters and support staff in an individual screening to provide one-to-one accessibility for anyone who needed it. So that would be tactile interpreting, which is ASL signed into the hand for people who are deafblind who communicate in that way. Interpreters up on the stage interpreting throughout, closer distance interpreters, depending on someone's eyesight and what's preferable for them. We'd also have audio descriptive track available, big open captions on the screen, like larger than normal, so that with a black backdrop. And also we'd often have accessibility to and from the theater as well. And I'll tell you, like, it was my first experience with a screening like that. And what was so amazing is that, I mean, it really forever changed. Like that first screening that we did, getting to look out onto this audience of people experiencing the film in all different ways, really was like a paradigm shift for me in how I think about people experiencing film, and is definitely something that will continue to stick with me moving forward beyond this project. And it's been a beautiful thing to be able to share it with all communities. And we've gotten some really tremendous feedback, certainly from the deafblind community, who've been really thankful for the story and the representation.
Yeah, this film is obviously so groundbreaking. I'm wondering if you've seen any paradigm shift kind of outside of it, seeing it in, other media, other films since you started making it.
Yeah, very fortunately, just now, I think it feels pretty recent that, authentic representation and authentic casting, um, particularly including the disability community, is starting to be something that's becoming more a part of the mainstream conversation. I think it's still a little bit more nascent, as far as how widespread it is. As opposed to other underrepresented groups who, fortunately, there's been more conversation around other groups as well over the last several years. But it's really great to see a lot more conversation about, better and more authentic representation for the disability community in film. And I think that's something that's going to really continue to increase, over the next several years. And we're really thankful to just be one part of that. But there's certainly, a lot of people out there who've been fighting the fight for a long time. Our executive producer, Marlee Matlin, who has been a fixture of the industry for a few decades now, going back to her Oscar win, as a freshman in her first film, in her first feature film. But she's obviously been an advocate, for the disability community in film for many years. And so there's been, which is another reason it's such an honor to be able to collaborate with her on Feeling Through. But yeah, very fortunately, it seems like things are starting to turn in the right direction. And I just hope that it happens, more and even faster than it's starting to happen now.
I feel like it might be easier to ask what films in the past have gotten right, but what do you think they've really gotten wrong about this community that you hope we, never see again on screen?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a really nuanced question. It's a great question. It's a really nuanced one. I think it's more comes down to the fact that, like, I'll just use myself as an example because that's what I can speak really firmly on. And that is, very fortunately, I had the instinct to align with the deafblind community and make this alongside the deafblind community and with the community from the start. But had I not, I still had good intentions in making this film, but there just given my lack of knowledge and exposure and experience with the community, I could have very well fallen into certain traps or tropes, which even the best intentions can fall prey to. I think a big thing, around disability storytelling is one of the pitfalls is, what's often referred to as inspiration porn. But what that really just means is that people with disabilities are not meant to be, their sole purpose is not to inspire other non-disabled people, so it's like the people with disabilities need to be represented in a more three-dimensional way than just serving the story function of inspiring other people. And that's something that I think, I think there's probably a number of storytellers who have meant good by the stories that they've done that with, but it's come, I imagine, from a lack of real connection with, collaboration with, an understanding of the disability community, in those films. So I think that's kind of like a major pitfall that, I very fortunately wasn't going to fall into because of my collaboration, but maybe there would have been subtle things that I would have done, had I not had that collaboration that, again, even with the best intentions, might have been problematic from a macro standpoint.
I was interviewing one of your competitors at the Oscars the other day. His name is Tomer, and then his film is, also based on a personal experience. So his main character's name is Omer. Just took off the T. Whereas your main character is named Tariq. I feel like he's a very different person than you are. So how did you craft his character, and why not just, have a stand-in for you?
Yeah, I think whenever you are drawing upon a personal experience to tell a story, it can be a gift and a curse. The gift of it is that there's an authenticity and a specificity that comes along with it that I think can really add to a story. I think the potential pitfall can be sometimes the real life encounter and what it's inspiring you is something that needs different elements within the actual story you end up telling to really have the best version of that story. And I found out very quickly in writing Feeling Through that though there were certain story points that were more or less ripped directly from my own experience, the overall story that was starting to emerge once I sank my teeth into it was something that was also very different from what I had experienced. And, you know, Tariq, the character of Tariq was someone that was organically born out of exploring what it was I was really trying to say with this film, and which characters felt like the best fit. You know, ultimately it's a story that is about the power of human connection, despite whatever differences, in this case, these two characters may have. And it was something where I wanted both characters to be going through their own challenges and have something to provide each other and have that real mutuality at the end of it. And again, to avoid a pitfall sometimes of storytelling in the disability space, that might be the non-disabled character helping the disabled character and feeling better about themselves and not really having that mutuality there. But all, you know, really what it comes down to is an organic and intuitive process that I try to tap into in creating something, and not be tied to, in this case, if I'm drawing upon a personal experience, not be tied to the facts of what happened, and more just be trying to uncover the best story that really illuminates in the deepest sense what was gained in that moment, so to speak.
What Artie writes for Tariq at the end is, so moving. But I did kind of wonder, like, does he write this for everybody, or could he tell that Tariq was really hurting and could use it? I suppose it's open to interpretation, but I wonder what you can say about that.
Yeah, definitely, definitely open to interpretation. I mean, I think I was, in my mind, I'm Artie has gotten a chance to spend this time with Tariq, and doesn't know, the ins and outs of what's going on with Tariq, but has pieced together some sort of understanding that, given how late it is at night, when they meet each other, Tariq's hesitancy when he's responding to certain questions, that he's pieced together that something's going on. But it's been really interesting because this film was written and shot before the pandemic, but I think there's something, that line has particularly resonated with people during this time. That's been a really challenging time for so many people. And, we've gotten a lot of beautiful emails and messages from people who have said that line really hit them, and it was something they really needed to hear in that moment. So there has been this kind of kismet element of showing the film at a time where that line is even of greater importance than we could have imagined when writing and making the film, along with the theme of touch, touch being something that's so integral in this film, and is something that we've been certainly not had the ability to do as much as we'd like during the last year plus. So those have been some interesting timing things that have happened as far as when this film is really being viewed by so many people.
I wonder just about, kind of the timing of short films in general. Like how do you decide to make this, an 18-minute piece as opposed to, 36 or what have you?
Yeah, I think it's always, you're always trying to, I edited it as well. So for me, a lot of it's a feel thing. When, the earlier cuts are always longer than they should be. But that's part of the process. And it's kind of this feel, but ultimately it's a feel thing. But for me, I wanted to strike a balance between it really being a film that needed to have a certain feeling that we're really sitting with these characters, and there is this time and this space to kind of just sit, and the stillness to kind of just be with each other, while also keeping a discernible pace so that it wasn't something that felt trying to experience. So it was really, there was so much time, I spent so much time towing the line of that and trying to honor both of those in a way that would honor the story and also the viewer.
Okay, and finally, Doug, what do you have coming up next?
Well, we have been interested in exploring a longer form version of this story for quite a long time. So I'm really excited to sink my teeth into that in a more meaningful way coming up soon. And, very excited to explore these characters more, this world more, and also what it means to be able to continue some of the work we've done around representation for the deafblind community, and getting, hopefully a lot more of the community involved in the next chapter of this, but really exploring a feature film version of this, and really uncovering what that's going to be and excited to tell that story as well.
Okay, Doug, well, thanks very much for taking the time to chat. And yeah, we look forward to seeing that.
Thank you for having me.